inequalities and finding solutions to quadratic inequalities. When we're graphing a quadratic inequality, we apply all the same principles that we already know. We're going to graph the boundary line. That's going to be the function. All right. If the inequality uses a exclusive, we're going to use a dashed line, and if it's an inclusive inequality, we're going to use a solid line. We're going to test a point, and then if it's true, we're going to shade toward, and if it's false, we're going to shade away. I have much of this done for you. The only thing left to do is actually to test a point. I cannot test 0, 0 because that is on my boundary line. So therefore, I'm going to test the point 0, 1. And I'm going to put a 1 in for y and a 0 in for x. And I'm plugging it up here into this inequality, this quadratic inequality up there. Is 1 less than or equal to x squared? That is false, so I have to shade on the other side or away from that point. So I'm going to shade out here. So we take our parent curve, we graph it, and then all of our solutions are on the outside of that boundary line. This next one, y is greater than x squared plus 2x plus 4. Again, I found all the key components. To summarize, my y-intercept is 0, 4. My vertex is negative 1, 3, and then I'm going to use some symmetry to get me in the right coordinates. So let me get my pen. Negative 1, 3. I think I'm going to make my asymptote in red. Here's x equals negative 1. Negative 1, 3. I'm going to plot that point. This graph is opening up at 0, x equals 0, my y-coordinate is 4, and at x equals 2, my y-coordinate is 4, and I'm going to use a dashed line because this inequality is exclusive. All right. I'm at the point where I'm going to test a point. I am going to test 0, 0 this time because it is not on my boundary line. And when I plug in 0 for y, is that greater than 0 plus 0 plus 4? Is that greater than 4? No, that's false. So I cannot shade on this side. I cannot shade here because that's false. So that means I must shade in between my 2 points, my 2 arms. I must shade in here. Between my arms. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is we're going to solve, which means that instead of it being y is greater than or y is less than a quadratic, it's going to be the quadratic less than 0 or the quadratic greater than 0. Okay? So again, we're going to graph the boundary lines. Graph boundary lines. Exclusive is dashed. Inclusive is solid. We're going to locate the x-intercepts because that's going to give us our x values of interest. If the quadratic inequality is greater than or equal to 0, we're looking for where the graph is above the x-axis. Another way of saying that is we're looking for where the y's are positive. Okay? If the quadratic inequality is less than or less than equal to 0, we're looking for where the boundary line is below the x-axis or where the y's are negative. And then we're going to report the x values in interval notation. So I've done a lot of this one for you. If we look here, this is a less than, so we are actually going to be looking for where the graph is below the x-axis. Okay, so if we look, here is my x-axis. There's my x-axis. Where's my graph below that? Well, it's here and here, right? This is where it's below. Now we have to figure out what those x values are. Okay? Well, the leftmost point is going to be this coordinate. This is the point -6, 0. And remember, we're reporting the x values. We look at the y's and we report the x's. We look at the y's and we report the x's. This is the point 1, 0. So my x values are going to be between -6 and 1. So we write it in interval notation. Bracket, -6, it's bracket because this is inclusive, and then 1 bracket, just like that. This last one, I've done all of the key components, I've graphed it, and now we have to figure out the solutions, all right? So we're interested in where it crosses the x-axis, all right? And we are looking for points that are below, again, below the x-axis. Here's my x-axis, so we're looking for below the x-axis. Okay? This is going to be in two pieces, all right? This ordered pair is -2, 0. And this ordered pair is +5, 0. So notice that my x's keep going further to the left underneath this x-axis. So this is going to go from -∞ to -2, and then it's going to stop because then it goes above the x-axis, and then it's going to pick up again from 5 to +∞. Where is my graph below the x-axis? When my x's are from -∞ to 2, and when my x's are from 5 to +∞. 5 to +∞. And that's it. So we'll just have a few problems, and I will see you tomorrow.